Welcome to a special edition of Gospel Truth with Andrew Wommack, a teaching ministry that focuses on God's unconditional love and grace. This week, Andrew is joined by guest speakers Richard Harris and David and Tim Barton as they discuss the upcoming elections and America's hope for the future. And now, here's Andrew.
Welcome to our Thursday's broadcast of the Gospel Truth. Again, I've got David and Tim Barton from Wall Builders with us, and what a blessing they are. And also Richard Harris, he's the head of our Truth and Liberty Coalition that is a part of our ministry here. And I tell you, this has been good. We've been trying to get you, Christians, to get involved in our political process. And I know that there's a lot of Christians that just immediately reject that. There are some that believe there's a separation between church and state, which is totally ungodly and not in our Constitution whatsoever. And then there's a lot of people that just don't want to get involved. They don't want to be criticized. They don't want to take the effort. They're too busy watching As the Stomach Turns on the television to go out and vote. So anyway, there's a lot of things, but we've been trying to get you involved. And what we kind of want to focus on today is to start focusing on the policies and not the personalities. You know, we've got one of the clearest choices, I think, between light and dark, godliness and ungodliness that we've ever had in a presidential election. And even when I say that, some Christians are going to say, well, Trump's not godly. How would you respond to this?
Well, I would first point out Hebrews 11, our faith hall of fame. We're told to look to the heroes of the faith who have gone before us. Without faith, we can't please God, right? It tells us what faith looks like. But if you look at our heroes of the faith list, it is one of the most staggering lists of flaws and failures and flesh.
Yeah, that's true.
It goes in chronological order, right? But if you start with Noah as a prime example, Noah, unbelievable faith. That there's never been rain. And God says, build this really big boat and don't build it near water, right? Build it over on dry ground and I'm going to send rain. And Noah does. And it's amazing. But in Genesis 9, after the ark lands on Mount Ararat, Noah gets off. It says that he became a farmer. He plants a vineyard. He got drunk and passed out naked, where his sons were like, Dad, what are you doing? Like covering him up. Okay. If you're a nudist alcoholic, you're probably not qualified to be on church staff.
And that's one of the minor things in that list.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah.
But I mean, if you keep going, you to Abraham, amazing faith that God says, hey, just pack your bags and move, and hasn't even given you a final destination. Abraham's amazing. He's also one of the biggest cowards and liars in the Bible. Because every time he gets before some other king and he tells his wife, hey, just pretend to be my sister, and tells the king, hey, it's just my sister. Would you like her? Because she's really pretty. Like, what are you, like, as a husband, your number one job is to protect your wife and family, and you're offering her for your, like, you are a coward and you're a liar. Right, when you go through the list, Moses is a murderer, Rahab is a prostitute, David is a murdering adulterer, he's a terrible father, Samson is this womanizer. These are our heroes of the faith. And what you quickly realize is that our heroes of the faith are about as far from perfect as you could be, but what you recognize is the reason they're heroes is they're not defined by their sinful moment. They're defined by how God used them and did amazing things through them. And as we look at our elected officials, right, if we were looking, we would not have chosen any of the Old Testament heroes that God chose and used, which also it's worth noting, we've talked earlier in the week about having a biblical worldview. As Christians, our starting place should be that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, that there is none righteous, no, not one. So we are all jacked up sinners who need Jesus. But if that's my starting place, and we recognize sin doesn't disqualify you from being used by God, well, then I need to move beyond this notion of the fact that, hey, I have these two imperfect candidates. Well, yeah, that's my starting place. My starting place is no matter who you choose, they're going to be an imperfect candidate, right? You can choose the most godly pastor leader you think, that's still an imperfect person who is a sinner saved by grace. But at this point, the Bible tells us that righteousness exalts a nation. Righteousness is far more determined in a nation by the policies of the nation than by the personality of the leader of that nation. And when you look at the nation of Israel, there were times in the nation of Israel where God blessed the nation of Israel based on the position that leader took, which also is worth noting, like King David. There were moments Israel's incredibly blessed under King David, but also remember King David in a moment had pride. And he said, I'm this really amazing warrior. God's given me so many victories. My army is the best ever. Let's count and see how big my army is. And his leader says, King, your victory doesn't come from your power. It comes from God. And he said, don't slow me down with that. Just go count and see. Even under a godly king, there were times that the people suffered from ungodly decisions. It was the policy, not the personality, that caused the blessing or the suffering.
Let's look at the policy of Trump versus the policy
There's
of
three
Harris.
places. Well, I'm going to make it bigger than Trump. I'm going to say look at the policy biblically and then see which of the candidates fits that. There's three passages I would take us to for that. And the first is Genesis 1 through Genesis 12. Genesis 1 through Genesis 12, 6 issues pop up there. And Genesis, called the seed plot of the Bible, we're told that every single important doctrine, belief comes out of Genesis at some point. No, that's correct. So when you start, the first 3 words, in the beginning, what? In the beginning, God. Oh, so that's your starting place. God is the first thing you start with. So if you have a secular viewpoint that excludes God, and right now, if you believe in God, you're a Christian nationalist. So if you're opposed to that's the first disqualifying thing. If God is not the starting place, you cannot have a limited government. If man is the starting place, they will take over everything. God is the one who draws the boundaries and says, you do it here, don't get into this, do this. The only way you have a limited government, you start with God. So in the beginning, God created. Well, what He created, heavens and earth. So then the next thing is God creates man. That's life. So now we have the issue of life. God is the source of life. He creates life. You don't take life. You don't take innocent life. You can take guilty life. That's capital punishment, but God creates innocent life, and so that's a life issue. So abortion goes right up there, and it's not just abortion, but in this generation, that's abortion. That's the innocent life, shedding innocent blood. So then He creates Eve. Oh, now we got genders. So we got 2 genders. So that's the next thing you look at. Is if somebody says no, like as right now, if you go to Helpful Professors, a website in America, 81 different genders listed. You're nuts. You're crazy. I'm not voting for any of your candidates because there's only 2 genders. So you start with God, you go to life, then you go to gender, and then they have children. Now we're talking family. So we're talking traditional family here.
Well, you could also add marriage into that.
And marriage goes with that. That's right.
The marriage was before the family.
That's right.
Relatively speaking, it's a covenant they made with God, right? So it's different than a piece of paper we'd sign today. I'm just clarifying
But it's a lifetime covenant.
In case there's anybody confused about how that process goes. We want to get married and then have the kids.
That's right.
Just
so that
modern
would be
culture.
Jesus said God made them male and female.
That's right.
It.
Matthew 18.
So genders, and then marriage is 4. And then they have children, family. This is where parental rights also come in. Who runs the kids? Is it the school? Is it the state? Is it whoever it is? And right now, this is a big issue with secular educators. They don't want parents involved. They want those parents out of there.
Totally.
So parental rights comes in with the family, with the parents. And then you go to Genesis 12, and you got Abraham, and Abraham, God's going to bless and says, okay, Abraham, I'm going to make a nation out of you. Whoever blesses you, I'll bless. Whoever curses you, I'll curse. Israel becomes the 6th issue. So you throw Israel in there. Where is a candidate? Where is a party? Where is anybody on Israel? So that's 6 things. So right off the bat, and I'll tell you, the Republican platform this year, good platform, and they reduced it. It had been 65 or 66 pages. They cut it down to 17 so more people would read it.
Let me just interject that you were a part of that platform thing, and even though you didn't agree with everything, you know what you're talking about. You've written the party platform for the Republicans.
For the last 20 years, I've been one of the authors of the Republican platform. And so with that platform, what you'll find is there's 20 action items up front, and there's 57 agenda items. This is 57 things that Trump wants to get done. So if you read the Republican platform, you're going to find that. So you're looking how many of these issues will show up there.
Can we throw another issue, which is free enterprise?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, free enterprise, Genesis 1:28, take dominion over the earth and replenish it.
Yeah.
Each person is commissioned with a God-given freedom and right to use their life as they see fit for the glory of God.
Yeah.
And then we see the government instituted in Genesis 9 with Noah, It's a restriction of evil, and that's its main function, or preservation of liberty. And so then again, we have biblical worldview coming into play.
Anti-socialistic, which is free enterprise.
That's
free
right.
enterprise is the antidote to socialism, and so that would be that would make it then 7 things that would come out of Genesis 1 through 12. So those are 7 key issues to look at.
And we could add more to that. But what's clear is that there's already a foundation in your.
That's right.
The reason this matters is because when the Bible says righteousness exalts a nation, well, then we should think, then I want to promote righteousness, but how do we determine righteousness? And so then if you're looking at the Bible, this is where you can start making a list. And it's worth noting, the Bible does have more than one place where you can make a list from, and you can add multiple things to that list saying, hey, there's more things in Genesis I want to add.
So I'm going to throw some more in real quick. So on Monday, we talked about Judges. Judges is where righteousness comes from in the nation. So the Genesis list plus Judges, you got to look at Judges. What do they want for Judges? The other is, if you go, God gave 613 laws to Israel. That was their code. That's where the Hebrew Republic started. He gave them his top 10, the 10 Commandments. And so out of that, the number 1 is, I am the Lord thy God. So it's acknowledging God, which we have in Genesis. But also it talks about don't commit adultery. So now we're into sexuality. Sexuality is supposed to be a man and a woman in a lifetime relationship. So that's marriage, but there's also sexuality. So God makes that one of his top 10 issues. Where are you on sexuality? Do you have clear boundaries drawn?
Well, yeah, and I would say sexual boundaries, right?
Sexual
so not
boundaries,
just that we're sexual beings, but sexual boundaries.
That's right.
Because anything outside of this is wrong.
Is wrong. So you have that. Then you have, he forbids the shedding of innocent blood, which goes back to abortion, which goes back to Cain and Abel with shed innocent blood, and then abortion is another manifestation of that. So the 10 Commandments gives you another 4 issues that come up in elections all the time. There's 4 that apply on a daily basis for us. There's the 7 issues in Genesis 1 through 12, and then there's the Judges. And so if you take that as say 10 or 11 issues, and you start judging congressional candidates based on this is a worldview indicator.
Yeah.
Do they want a 7% tax or an 8% tax? Don't ask that. Ask where they are on worldview. Once we find out what your worldview is, then we'll start talking about policy.
Well, a majority of millennials today think that socialism is a preferable form of government and enterprise. But if the 10 Commandments are your top 10, like they're God's top 10, it says thou shalt not steal. It says thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house.
That's right.
And with the great reset and everything, where they say, oh, under our system you won't own anything, but you'll be happy. There is a stark contrast between these two things, and to me, free enterprise is a biblical issue. I'm done on that one.
No, don't be, because it is a big, and that's part of woke stuff too. Is the woke is the corporate kind of collective kind of stuff. And you're right. 71% of millennials think that we should replace free market with socialism, and 75% of college students, which is why college is another reason that's not a good deal a lot of times now.
And I would say that's not just part of the woke stuff, it's part of the Marxist ideology.
Oh, exactly.
Right, because this idea that capitalism is bad, it's evil, that really has its roots in a lot of Marxism. And you're pointing out that if you look in Genesis, that you're supposed to be productive, fruitful, multiply. And then, of course, even part of the idea of the 10 Commandments that we're not even supposed to covet what somebody else is. Right. And socialism wants to redistribute, and we're going to take from this person, and they have too much, give to somebody else. Yep. Well, those are only 2 examples from Scripture, because if you get into the Gospels, Jesus dealt with this an awful lot. But again, this is where we're coming back to. What are the issues of righteousness? Where Jesus said in Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then everything else gets added. So even this idea when people talk about, I care about the economy, I care about taxes. Well, those are maybe things that will be added unto you, but let's prioritize, because life is more valuable than economics.
Yes.
Right? So how do we prioritize? And this is where going, for example, like to the list of the 10 Commandments, you can see, or even in Genesis, when God created in a sequence and an order. So there was a God, and God made life. And God made them male and female, so there was genders. And then God made marriage, and God made family, and God put kids inside of that family. And then God made the nation of Israel. This sequence was important because we never have even gotten into economics yet. Although the Bible is very clear in economics, it would be, in my mind, it's one of the lower tiers when it comes to the righteousness factor. But all of this to say is, if we are supposed to promote righteousness, and righteousness exalts a nation, then how do we determine righteousness? And it's determined through policies, not personality. So then looking at the candidates, well, which one is in favor of recognizing we have God-given rights, or who thinks the government should control this, who believes there are two genders, who believes that marriage is a man and woman, who believes in family and in parental control, who believes in supporting the nation of Israel. And when you start going down this, neither candidate are perfect on these issues. But one candidate supports almost everything on the righteousness list, and one supports almost nothing on the righteousness list. And so then, as Christians, it's also recognizing that you are supposed to be strategic with the vote that God gave us. And so even though we're not voting for a perfect candidate, which also worth noting, there's only been one time that there was ever a perfect candidate in an election. It was between Jesus and Barabbas, and Jesus lost the election. That's right. Right? So like even this premise that if we had a perfect candidate, that's not even historically accurate. If you had a perfect candidate, you still might lose.
Let me ask this question. Some people are so focused on pro-life, which I am 100% pro-life, and I'm for abolishing all abortion. But some people are so focused on that the Republicans backed off of that somewhat. Yes. Trump is saying, allowing rape and incest and different things. And there's some people that this is such a big deal that they say, I'll never vote for a person who is for abortion in any form or fashion. Sure. How do you deal with that?
Well, okay, he's backed off on that issue, and that's about 1%. So because you're not a 100%er, I won't support a 99%er. I won't do anything. I'll let the 0%er get in there.
But there are some people that would have made this commitment. I'll never vote for a person who's for abortion.
Well, and Trump,
how do you deal with
when you say he's backed off, he's saying this is for the states mostly.
Well, and he hasn't backed off so much as his consultants have. His consultants see this, and to be very frank about this, in the 2022 elections, when they thought there was going to be a red wave, it was a red trickle, maybe. They picked up 2 or 3 or 4 seats.
It was a red flop.
It was a red flop. And the number one issue that voted against Republicans was the pro-abortion side. The nation is trending pro-abortion. And so they say, they're seeing right now, just the communication side of this, if we stake out the abortion issue, the last election proved that people are not going to support pro-life candidates. So you need to support pro-life candidates, but we need to not talk about it as much. And so that's a strategic decision. We can talk about whether that's smart or not. He hasn't backed off the position. He's been the most pro-life president we've had. He's the only president ever to attend the life rally. He gave us judges that reversed Roe v. Wade. I mean, there's no question. So don't get fixated on what the optics look like. Stay with what the policy is.
Well, and it's not to say that as a Christian, and if this is if you say this is the number one righteous issue, life is the number one issue, there's no doubt you will be disappointed by what happened at the Republican National Convention, where it certainly looks like they compromised on the life issue, because it seems like they did. With that being said, unfortunately, there's a dichotomy right now. There's only 2 choices ultimately for president, and one of them is going to be there. And if one of them says, we're going to kill all the babies all the time, no matter what, we're the vice president, Tim Walz, for Kamala Harris, he, as governor of Minnesota, he's the one that signed into law that said if a baby is born alive in a botched abortion, you can just leave that baby alone till it dies. And it's estimated now there's 8 babies that have died alone on a table after they were born alive because he signed that law. This is the extremism of the other side. And so again, you're looking at this, and I think I made this reference maybe earlier in the week, where you're looking at a candidacy between someone who is like a Jezebel, Jezebel from the Bible, hated the people of God, and never supported the ways of God. And then you have a candidate who's much more like a Samson, who obviously really rough around the edges, didn't always live a godly life, didn't always say the right thing and do the right thing, but unquestionably, he was on the right side, big picture, and was fighting for the things of God and the people of God in not in every situation, but in many situations. And so this is the kind of dichotomy you have. You have one candidate who is always on the wrong side of this specific issue, and one candidate who's not where we would like for him to be, but he's not as extreme as the other side, and still believes that we should respect and support life in many situations. And to go further, he's already shown that he has appointed judges who do value and respect life. And we do know from many things behind the scenes, He has even recognized that some of the consultants that were even suggesting some of the judges for him early on, they were suggesting judges who were not as conservative as he wanted. He was already super frustrated. Well, now he's saying, I'm going to choose even more conservative justices. And right now, how are laws upheld in this nation is through judges. How was Roe versus Wade overturned? It was through judges. Judges are incredibly important to the righteousness of the land.
That's right.
And so as a Christian, we can look and go, but he's not exactly where we want him to be. He's not. But will he help advance the cause of the issue? And I think he will.
Yeah.
And this is where you have what are called abolitionists, and then you have incrementalists. And the abolitionists say, abolish it all right now. And if they don't get what they want, unfortunately, some of them say, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reality is you don't win a game in one moment.
That's voting for the other side.
Well, that's
Right.
like saying in
And
football,
let me add-
we have one play, the Hail Mary, and we're just going to throw
That's
it
right.
all game
we
long.
won't
Well,
take
you're
short
gonna lose
games.
every game.
Right.
You'll lose every game. And the other thing I'd point in this is if people look at the Republican platform say, oh, they compromised, I'm going to say, well, a lot of that was the result of Christians. 20 million less Christians voted in 2022 than they did in 2020. And in 2022, we got our head handed to us on the pro-life issue.
Yep.
We lost all these seats because 20 million Christians didn't come show up. And so now you're going to stay home some more and expect it to get better because Trump is 99% instead of 100% or 82% instead of whatever. You can't do that. You got to show up more and stronger and have a louder voice, not back away. You cannot back away.
And that doesn't mean it's wrong to have life as the number one
That's
issue.
right.
And it doesn't mean it's wrong to be disappointed by looking at the platform going, they compromised on this. But it also means that we have to be strategic in what we do. And strategic is not take our ball and go home, because if you do, all that can happen is the other side wins. Yeah. Strategic is saying, okay, then we're going to take this incremental victory where we can get it, but we're going to work harder next time to make sure that we have more pro-life people running, more pro-life
That's
people
right.
in positions. We're going to work harder next time. So don't give up and take the ball and go home. Recognize there's that dichotomy. Neither candidate is perfect, but one candidate is far closer on the issues of righteousness. One candidate opposes almost every one of the issues of righteousness. We have to look at policies, not just personalities.
That's
And
right.
it's my opinion that in 22, the conservatives would not deal with the abortion issue. They should have dealt with
Correct.
it head on.
That's
They
right.
just withdrew
They did.
and gave the liberals the high ground there. And they
Right.
should have come out and said, this is murder instead of women's rights. And if they would have made an issue out of it, I think we could have won on that. But they wouldn't do it.
They didn't.
So we're out of time again. Richard, again, quickly tell them about this brand new little movie that we've got out. I really like this.
It's an awesome documentary. It tells the story of your 3 prophetic words, Andrew, about there being that we are already in a third great awakening. And I remember when you gave that word, and I was stunned. At that time, there was no evidence of it at all. We had just come through the 2020 election, and everybody was depressed. And you spoke that, and now we're seeing not just a little evidence, but lots of it. God is turning things around. So people need to get this by becoming a Truth and Liberty member or making a one-time gift of $50.
And we also have the Great Awakening. This is a little pamphlet. I'll let our announcer give you all the details on that, but I think this is a gift. We've got Biblical Worldview. We've got a Great Awakening CD set where David and Tim Barton came on my program in 2021, and we talked about historically the first Great Awakening, the second Great. I remember one of the things you said in here that just really blessed me was that those first 2 awakenings weren't easy. They were messy,
Right.
caused the revolution and
Yeah.
a civil war, and yet it fundamentally changed this nation.
They weren't unifying moments, they were clarifying moments.
Yeah. So anyway, we've got some great resources. Our announcer will give you all of the information on it. And David and Tim are also going to be with us on our program again tomorrow. Real quickly, wallbuilders.com, what
Yes,
do you
sir.
have there?
Wallbuilders.com, all kinds of information on the Christian heritage of the nation. If people want to find out more about who the founding fathers were, how Christianity impacted America, go to wallbuilders.com.
And I tell you, it's awesome. So thank you for being a part of this. Please get the materials and join us again tomorrow for another Gospel Truth broadcast.
Explore the new Truth and Liberty website. Empower yourself with Christian liberties and biblical truths, now with helpful features like the Pastor's Toolkit, video archives, and better search capabilities. Unlock access to an extensive database featuring hundreds of organizations, including the Family Research Council, Wall Builders, Andrew Wommack Ministries, and more. Visit our new website today at truthandliberty.net. Andrew is offering his booklet, The Great Awakening, as his free gift to you today. This offer is limited to one free booklet per household and is available in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia. Contact us today to receive your free booklet. This week's panel discussion with Richard Harris and David and Tim Barton is available as part of the God and Country series as a newly updated CD album, TV DVD album, or as a USB made from our daily television broadcast. Also available is the Great Awakening series as a CD album, TV DVD album, and as a USB. Each of these valuable resources are available for a gift of any amount when you contact us. Also, on today's program, Andrew mentioned Biblical Worldview Foundational Truths. This product is available for $149. The Hope for the Future USB is a powerful film that delivers a message of hope and encouragement, reminding us of God's presence and His divine plan for America. This product is available for Truth and Liberty members or for a one-time donation of $50 or more. If you're not already a Truth and Liberty member, we invite you to become one today by visiting truthandliberty.net. Go to our website at awmc.ca to see all the ways you can get these products. Or you can call the Andrew Wommack Ministries Canada helpline Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time at 647-348-2220 to order. Join us again tomorrow as Andrew continues discussing America's hope for the future with Richard Harris and David and Tim Barton. Do you want to dive deeper into God's Word? Now you can with Andrew Wommack's Living Commentary.
I'd like to encourage you to get this living commentary. We call it a living commentary because I'm still writing it. And I've written footnotes on over 27,000 verses in the Bible. And I promise you, this is powerful. It's not only got my commentary and experiences and revelations that God has given me, but it's got Greek and Hebrew words defined. It's got references and just all kinds of things here. It would be a tremendous blessing to you. So check it out, our living commentary.
The Living Commentary includes 2 dictionaries, 4 commentaries, and 12 versions of the Bible, plus atlases and biblical maps. Grow in the Word with Andrew's Living Commentary software. You can enjoy the Word of God wherever you are, on your phone, computer, or tablet. Download the Living Commentary today.
I want to let all of you know who are watching our program in Canada that we have a Canadian office. We also have a website, awmc.ca, and you can go there and you can get all of our materials sent to you from our Canadian office. You can become a partner with us and give, and the money will stay right there to help us reach people in Canada. We would love to help you and minister to you any way we can.
If Andrew's teachings are making a difference in your life, consider becoming a Grace Partner with Andrew Wommack Ministries Canada today. Grace Partners are special friends of the ministry who commit to giving $30 or more per month to help Andrew reach thousands of people here in Canada and around the world with the life-changing message of God's unconditional love and grace. If you'd like to become a Grace Partner today, go to awmc.ca. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to hearing from you today.